Welcome to the Wally Show Aftercast, all the stuff we didn't get to during the course of the show today, including all the life stuff, because we have been gone for quite some time with Support Drive. First of all, to every potty that gave during the Support Drive, a huge thank you.
Yeah, we saw some of them.
Yeah, I love seeing, hey, I'm a potty, I'm a faithful potty come across, and people being generous. That enables us to keep doing this, and so thank you so much. Like, that's super cool.
And Wally, unfortunately, figured out that Dunkin is back.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was so good.
I'm in.
I think we're all kind of happy.
But I was worried about his heart for a little bit. He did take his heart medication, but if you're a loyal potty, you know the suffering that he endures.
Thank you.
Because I see your frustration.
I feel the validation.
I'm witnessing your tragic moment.
You've been fighting a battle for a while now.
You have a testimony. So Dunkin changed their coffee recipe for their cold brew.
Yeah.
But then we found out that when it comes to their hot brew,
same good old
same
coffee.
Old thing. So he got 3.
Yeah, I had 3 that week
during Support Drive.
Yeah.
Of the Beast.
Yeah, it was a lot.
6 pumps of caramel,
Yep.
6 pumps of cream, and 6 pumps of liquid cane sugar.
But now I do it hot, and I don't put the sweet cold foam on the top. And
look at you, self-control.
Well, they won't put it on there. I found out. Like
on hot?
On hot, yeah, because
the lids are
curdles.
A little smaller too.
Well, it also they're afraid
it
it curdles the milk and would make you sick. So some Dunkins will do it, other Dunkins won't. I was at a rest on the Florida Turnpike. And I ordered one during the winter one time, and I ordered it with the cream. And the guy's, I can't put that on there. I'm like, oh, why? And he goes, because they're afraid the hot will turn the cream. I'm like, well, we put cream in coffee all the time. I'm not 100% sure. Is it really not cream? Like,
also when they put like whipped cream on thing.
Yeah,
like
I know.
They
put on hot
it's the
coffee
same
all the time.
thing.
I think, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think he was lying to me. I think he just didn't have any or didn't want to do it. Yeah, I think he didn't want to.
But anyways, all that to say that they are back in his good graces.
Oh, I know.
And he was a lot to handle during Support Drive. When things were going good, you were, yeah. And they typically, I would say this drive, it went really good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we ended up at 100%. And yeah, like I wasn't like super stressed about things and was just kind of like laid back.
But
yeah, my heart was going a million miles a minute, which feels great.
Did you get another one on Sunday?
Oh.
No, I've avoided it actually, and I didn't even get one Saturday. I tried to get back into my diet stuff a little bit more on Saturday and Sunday. And like today, it was everything I could do to not come in, or yesterday too, because now it's back, and now I know what to do. I get the hot coffee, I put it in the fridge, it turns into cold coffee, and it's glorious. But yeah, I was trying to resist the urge, and then today coming in for the first day back, I'm like, oh, I want one so bad, because I was like 7 minutes later than I normally get in, so Dunkin would have been open, and I'm like, oh no.
You were weren't you doing a whole week of tracking your blood pressure?
Yes,
and
it's
with
good.
That you tested fate by like going for as many coffees as you did while
I did
testing.
it during Support Drive too, and so
so you're good there.
My night numbers were really good. My morning numbers were weird. Like when I first would wake up, they'd be like 150 sometimes. Like,
is that good or bad?
No, it's bad. But
Do you
then
think it's like lack of sleep?
I don't know. I sleep great. I think it's like your body waking up, and then it's like, oh, we got to do some stuff. And so I wait for a little bit, and then I would take it again, and it would be lower.
I will say, though, that I think you needed some rest, because when I got home on Friday after Support Drive, I came home and I took, I think, a 2.5-hour nap.
Nice. Yeah.
And I put my phone on silent. And I know Wally gets perturbed when I put my phone on silent, because it means he can't reach me.
Right.
But when I woke up and I checked my phone, it showed a missed call from him. So I call him back. He didn't answer. It was maybe 45 minutes later, I get a text from him, and he's like, hey, I was calling because I lost my keys at the mall.
Yeah.
I couldn't find them. Then I found them. And I was like, this is why I put my phone on silent.
Why'd you call her for that?
Why would you need to call me to tell me this whole story? Like, if you already found your keys. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I just thought you would love the fact that I lost my keys in a mall. And
but that shows you, because do you remember that same morning? You kept forgetting so many things.
I know.
You were like, Wally, come on.
I know.
Because you couldn't recall anything. And then you lose your keys at the mall?
Right.
Like, you need sleep.
I know. I was calling Betty because I thought, okay, Betty could, worst case scenario, give me a ride home because I have another key, and then Marty could bring me back up. But I had been Christmas shopping for Marty, so I didn't want her to know where I was.
Oh.
Yeah. So I didn't want to be like, hey, come pick me up at the mall, because she would have known what I was getting
How
her.
in the world did you find your keys?
What
Okay.
store were they in?
So here's what happened. She doesn't listen to the podcast, so we're good. So I walk into Belk, and I go, and I was going to get her this thing that she wanted. So I go to the register. There's no one there. Like, I'm waiting, I'm looking around, like trying to look like, hey, I need some help. I'm at the register, and no one comes over there, because I had even taken my wallet out and I set my keys down on that register, and I'm like, okay, there's nobody here. Ooh, I'm starting to get frustrated, and then finally I walk down to another lady I see walking, and I go, hey, can I buy this at your station? She's like, oh, absolutely. So then I followed her, and I was so happy that she did it. And then I was like, focused on the next place I had to go. So I just left from her station. So
And
I went to
your
a different
wallet?
place. I had my wallet with me.
Oh.
I had set my keys down. So then I went to like 3 other stores of things that I knew Marty wanted. So I went in. So then
Oh.
I went to all 3 stores. I go to leave. I go back to my car, and I'm like, oh, that feeling sets in. So I go back to the first lady, and I'm like, hey, did I leave my keys on your counter? And she's like, no, I'm so sorry. I'm like, oh, that's when panic set in.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, you know what? It had to be at the, I don't want to say in case someone tells her. Had to be at the other store. So I go to the other store, and I wait in line, and these people are taking forever. And I wanted to talk to the same girl I had checked out with, and they're taking forever. And I'm just like, and so I'm like, hey, real quick, did anybody turn in some keys? Or did I leave my keys here? I'm sure they're there. And she's like, no, I'm so sorry. I'm like, uh-oh. All right, so back to the 3rd store.
And it hadn't occurred to you that you had stopped at a different station
No.
at Belk.
Totally forgot the first time I stopped. So then I go all the way down to the 3rd store, and I'm like, hey, weird story. I left my keys. I'm sure they're here. And I looked on the places I had bought things to see if I'd set them down, and she's like, no, I'm sorry. And then I'm like, oh. She's like, they're not here. I said, okay, there was an older lady that was working, and does she, Mildred?
Mildred, was it really?
Yeah.
Mil.
Do you know?
Perfect.
Did you get
Oh,
any
Mil.
keys? She's like, no. I'm like, oh, dadgummit. And so then I'm literally panicked. So I go back out to my car to see if maybe I dropped them by my car.
Was this when you called me?
Yes. And so I'm like, oh my goodness.
And it went straight to voice.
Yeah, I know. Thank you for your help. And so then I go.
It was fine. See?
Yeah.
Aren't you happy?
Yeah, it
you
worked
found
out
them?
great. So then when I walked back in, and for whatever reason, I was like, you know what? I did go by that other thing, but I know they're not there. But the other register, I know they're not there. I walk over, and there's a lady that worked there holding my keys. I'm on the phone with somebody else because I had called, or somebody called me. I forget who it was, about something. And I'm talking to them. Oh, it was Tommy. So I'm talking to Tommy about scheduling our session this week. And I'm like, oh, ma'am, those are my keys. Those are my keys. Oh my goodness, you have my keys. Thank you. And she didn't ask for ID or anything. She was. I was so excited. She was like, yeah, I was just calling to see to let someone know that we'd found some keys here. I'm like, oh, those are mine. Thank you so much. And
that
so
worked out
got my
perfect.
keys. Then I left, and then I called Betty. Or I'd called you
No,
before.
wait.
I'd called you
I was about
before.
to say, why would you call me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
But
Anyhow.
did you get some sleep, though?
Yeah.
What'd you do this weekend?
Oh boy. We
was
had
a
that
long
3-day
one.
weekend. I woke up on Sunday thinking it was, or I woke up on Monday thinking it was Sunday because we had Monday off, and I was so
Yeah.
bummed. I'm like, oh no.
I worried for a little bit because I kept forgetting
I thought
last
you were gonna
week that
come
we
in.
were going to have Monday off, right? And I was thinking to myself on Sunday, I was like, we do have Monday off. We do have Monday off because I was still a little bit like, ooh.
Yeah. Marty's
know.
like, what if Betty goes in? I'm like, oh, make
gosh,
my
I would
day.
hate myself.
She would call you.
Yeah, she'd call me.
Yeah, I would.
Oh,
I
that's
was
so good.
driving because I for some reason, there was the theory of having today off as well, and I was pulling into our parking lot this morning. I was like, I wonder if we're working today, right?
Yeah.
Like if I had turned that corner
Ugh.
and neither of you guys
Yeah,
had been
saw
there,
no cars.
I would have been so bummed.
I have
Yeah.
done that. I've gotten
Oh,
up.
yeah.
I've slept through like the night, like into the afternoon, and I've slept through till like it was like when it gets dark early, like so it's like 6 in the morning or it's 6 at night, but it's dark. and I thought I'd slept all night, and I woke up in a panic thinking it was 6 a.m. and that I was late for work, and I'm rushing. I'm throwing clothes on. I'm getting ready, and my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I am so late for work." She's like, "It's 6 p.m." I'm like, "Oh, this wave just washed over me." I was so thankful.
Wow, that's never happened to me. But I will say, I think I've been late twice in the years that I've had this job. That I've only been late.
Have you been
twice.
late for a show before? Like actual show?
I remember there was one time you called me and you woke me up. There was something wrong with my alarm. And I literally just brushed my teeth. I think I was wearing my glasses. I was still in my pajamas. It was bad.
Yeah.
And then there was another time that happened. But I think it's only happened twice.
I've been late for the time we get in early, but I don't think I've been late for a show yet. I've been close. There's times where I've gotten in at years ago, I got in like at 5 after, and the first break was going to hit like at 10 after. So I mean, it's still late. But yeah, it's not a good feeling. That cold sweat that washes over you when you're like, and then you're like, okay, now what is my lie going to be?
Yeah. I've had they had the one moment early on in the tenure here where I think my charger just didn't go into the phone all the way. And then I woke up and I looked over to see what time it was, and it wouldn't turn on.
You struggled early on with this schedule.
Oh, so bad.
Yeah,
Still do.
Yeah, you don't get used to this. It's tough. But yeah, I did on Saturday, I took my wife and we ran a bunch of errands, and we're still shopping for things we need for this trip and stuff. And but I'm like, I want to get home, and I wanted to make some. I'd seen somebody make something on TikTok, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I can make that. And so I went home and I made one. Like a little wooden Christmas tree thing. And so then I'm like, oh, I got extra wood left over. I'll make 2. So I made 2.
But that's life-giving.
It is. And so I go and I show Marty, and she's like, oh, I love these. And she put them up in a display already. Okay. And then I'm like, oh, I could make some for Haley. I said, oh, I should make 3 because of the 3 trees.
Then you started crying.
I did. And then I got the tears out of my eyes. And so then
they're tear stained.
Yeah. And so I made some for Haley. And then Marty ordered the book, said because I always make Haley a special gift every year. So I've already made one thing for her, but then I'm like, oh, this will be a thing from her childhood too.
So it's like she's opening presents from a child, like they're handmade gifts.
Yes.
And she's like, oh,
thanks. Love this.
Wow.
This is so great. Fortunately, she's a good kid, and she actually loves that stuff. I know Betty would be sorely disappointed.
No.
You didn't spend money on me?
What? Daddy.
Money, please.
Yeah. I had a long weekend. It was fantastic. On Friday, I didn't do anything, and it was wonderful. I had a horrible headache, so it was fine. And so I didn't do anything. I did watch, and I did send a text to Gavin and Wally. I watched Gladiator. I've never seen it. It was released in 2000.
Yeah, because we're all going to go see Gladiator 2 together.
We're going to go see Gladiator 2. And Wally was like, you have to see the first.
No, it's very essential.
So I did.
Yeah.
And I will say that it is the male equivalent of Hunger Games.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You put people in a stadium and then you make them fight each other to the death. I was like,
this one was historical, though.
About
really
it. I just didn't get it. But the thing is, too, that y'all keep saying that in the second one that's coming out, that it's his son.
Yeah.
But
I think it is.
but he died. How can it be his son?
I think it might be a son via
a different woman. What? But that was never approached in the first one.
Was
it?
Wait, because his wife and son were killed in the first one.
Yes.
Right.
And then is it real? Oh wait, is it Maximus's son, or is it somebody else that rises up? Because it's the son, the emperor is the son of the jacked up emperor.
There was a little boy that was the son of the queen or something. I don't know.
Yes,
he was a little kid.
Yes,
and his uncle was Joaquin Phoenix, the bad guy.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he becomes the king now. I don't know. Boy, I don't know. I could be.
So this kid's name is Lucius.
Yeah.
Its essay is in fact the son of Maximus.
Okay.
Ow.
And not Lucius Verus
Maybe we find
the
out
First,
he didn't die.
as he was made to believe his whole life.
Oh, that would be interesting.
So it's got major implications for the. Okay, so I mean, the internet says that he is his son.
Okay.
So I feel like that was probably a pretty just kind of cop out thing to write into the movie to make it more interesting, but.
Well, I got prepared for that, and I will say my My reaction to the first one was, meh, okay. I get it.
You're a girl. I get it.
Yeah,
like you're not gonna like that stuff.
Is that not? That's not really your.
I think
type
my wife
of movie, is it?
No.
So, yeah.
I think my wife
2.5
liked Gladiator
hours.
though. Like she liked it.
It was all right.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it for a long time, so I still want to watch it over Thanksgiving to
Well,
prep.
you still have time.
You should watch that and then follow that up with Iron Eagle.
I've never
telling
watched
you,
that.
you need to watch
Gavin,
Iron Eagle.
I
you will
know.
never
You
get,
do.
Look at someone who has a
What's
testimony
Iron
to
Eagle?
share. I will never get that hour and a half back.
Watch Iron Eagle.
Bad war
was
movie.
the
It's
worst.
the plain one.
Yes,
It's
watch Iron
the
Eagle.
worst. Absolutely. I
not
would
gonna
rather
happen.
watch the Jurassic Park movie.
No,
Yeah.
that was a good movie.
It
Yeah,
stunk to high heaven.
you should watch that.
He literally listens to a Walkman and
Yeah.
yells at some guy named
Chappie.
Chippy. It's ridiculous.
You'll
I
love
can
it.
rent it for $6 on
Not
Prime.
worth it. No, they should pay you $6.
That's not right. Yeah,
That's
I'm gonna
not-
go. I'm gonna go on. Well, I know what to get you for Christmas now.
No.
Please do.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you both
No,
Iron Eagle.
I reject it.
I bet
I'll
you
give it to
can't.
Goodwill, and they'll be like, "No, we're gonna burn this." It's
Amazon's
that
just
bad.
like, we don't sell that movie.
Right.
Yeah.
You can watch it, but
Let me tell you what else I did. I went and I painted. They did the thing, where you can paint clay or whatever.
yeah.
And I
Yeah,
went and did that
pottery.
with a friend. And then, I celebrated a friend's 40th birthday. It's weird. My group of friends, a lot of us are the same age, and we're all going into that 40 year,
Yeah.
and it's weird.
Yeah. Was it? Did she handle it well?
No.
Oh, no.
No, no. And she's got a kid that's turning 10, I think, next month. So she's where a 40-year-old should be, and it's still messing with her.
Really?
So there was that.
how do you feel? That's next May. Even though we
I
won't
don't
talk
like
about
it.
that.
I don't like it.
I get it.
I don't like it at all because I think the main thing is that I am not where a typical 40-year-old
Gotcha.
is.
Yeah.
Whereas there are probably some that are divorced with kids and trying to get out of a situation, and they'd much rather be where I am.
Sure.
I don't know. You can always compare and contrast. But all that to say, 40 is going to be a little for me. But I should be thankful that God has given me that many years. Then Sunday I went to church.
A little touch there at the end.
Yeah. And then Monday I went and visited my mom and dad. My dad bought on DVD the CMA Country Music Awards, but they were from 1968 to 2010.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
And so we started at 68 and ended in 2010.
No.
Watched all of them.
How is
But
that
it's just-
possible?
It's just the
There's-
highlights. It's
Oh,
not the
okay. I
whole
was like,
show,
that's a
but it's
3-hour
the
event.
highlights. But man, it was a good time.
Really?
Saw some of the greats.
Yeah.
We saw Jerry Reed, Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah.
Garth Brooks, they didn't show any of him, which I was fine with.
Really?
Patty Loveless, Vince Gill.
Yeah.
They showed some really good ones. That's what I did.
We've had people close to us die over the weekend, and other friends I ran into that like her husband died, and my wife just got on this like death train, heavy topic stuff, and like my wife, because my wife is very empathetic. Like she feels everybody's pain, and like
That's rough.
Haley's wired that way. I think you're wired that way to a degree too. But you feel people's stuff, and I'm low on the empathy scale for a lot of things. I can be like, man, like the difference is like somebody could go, oh, so and so passed away. And if it's someone I don't have a relationship with, I'd be like, oh, man, that's sad for their family. I get it. That's sad for their family. My wife will sit in it and she'll imagine how hard it is and she'll cry, and I'm not wired that way.
Because in essence, it's like, and I'm with you on that one where it's like, I feel like it's unnecessary for you
Right.
to take on all of that emotion.
Sometimes I think people that are super empathetic, and I'm not saying this about my wife, but I think sometimes people do it. Twos in the Enneagram, the pride or the sin that's associated with that is pride. And I think there's an element to that when you take on somebody else's thing. You're inserting yourself into the story and you want to feel it as well. And I think there's an ego thing to some people in their empathy, because they want to be part of the story. And I'm feeling it just like you are, But when you talk to people that are really going through something, I mean, I definitely, I feel for them, but then like my day goes on, and I don't sit in it. And she was talking about like life events coming up and things like that. And she's like, I'm just sad that I won't get to call my mom, my dad, or my brother with this news kind of thing.
And that's an understandable sadness in my head.
Yes, to her, yes.
To her, yes.
To me, no.
Sure.
Like, I'm not wired that way. Like, I'm not like, oh, I'm not going to get to call my dad and tell him this, whatever. Because to me, I live in now.
Yeah,
this is now.
You felt that before.
Yeah.
But you don't plan on the feeling.
And I don't live in it. I'm like, I might be bummed for a second about it, but I'm like, it is life. I know I can't call him, so why worry about it, kind of thing. And where she'll sit in that sadness, And then she got off on this thing about, when I'm gone, who are you going to talk to? And like, she's like, because I'm worried about you holding up all your feelings and not talking to anybody and not doing anything, And I'm like, well, that's a pretty high estimation of yourself and your value to me. No, no, but I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't. I was like, she's like, well, who do you talk to now about stuff? And I said, the radio in this room. Yeah, I'm like, this is she's like, well, what about Pastor Chad? I said, yeah, Chad and I would talk, or Phil and I would talk about stuff, but we never we would talk more like philosophically or theologically and stuff like that. Like, I never go to anybody, I'm like, I'm really struggling. Like, I just don't do that. I'm not wired that way. I won't do that, And so, like, even with my buddy Greg, like, we'll talk and we have talks about life and what we're feeling and things like that, but it's different. It's not that I'm seeking counsel for him. And he's like agnostic, so it's not like it's a biblical thing. And I think she's worried about that. She's like, well, who are you? She even said, she goes, who's going to pray for you? And I said, like, who do you go to pray for you? And I said, it's not about that for me. I said, honestly, this is going to get into some theological stuff here for a second. I apologize. That may rub somebody the wrong way. I'm like, I don't think it matters. For me, who prays for me, other than if I was that person that was wired where someone came up to me and said, hey, I prayed for you today. There's a couple people in my life, when they say that to me, I know they mean it. Like Farron, our old boss, was one.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I was praying for you today. And when he texted me that, and I'm humbled by that. I'm like, man, thank you. That's really kind of you. Like, awesome. I appreciate that because I know he means it, But like, in my view of prayer, I really do believe, like, she's like, well, who, if people aren't interceding for you, I'm like, they shouldn't have to. God knows me. God knows what I need. And God should be putting people in my path that are going to help me that day. Like, he should already be keenly aware of that and should be working for our good already. The fact that Marty prays for me shouldn't alter what he's already going to do or plan. It shouldn't matter at all. So my point to her was, prayer is for you. You're praying that God would, say, put somebody in my life that would give me a different perspective today. So then when he was going to do that anyway, and I go home and I share, oh yeah, this guy said this thing to me today. It was really cool and gave me a different perspective. She goes, boom, God answered my prayer. So it increases her faith with God, but it's not like she altered that outcome of him putting that person in my path today. Like, there's no way God wakes up and goes, I hadn't thought of that. You know what? That's what Wally needs today. Now, would he do it for her sake? This is going to increase her faith if I put that person in there. And this is what she needs. Maybe I'll do that for her, kind of thing.
Because I just don't think when it comes to like, oh, God, heal this, or God, help this thing, and then it doesn't happen, like, I don't place that at his... I don't place
I don't get mad at him for that.
Blame on God for bad things happening, and it's hard. But I do.
But we're taught to give him the credit for all the good stuff.
I do give him credit for the good stuff because I think everything that's good does come from him because he is the ultimate source of that goodness. But I'm with you that I'm not a big believer in him handing out, like, here is that thing that you prayed for. I think when those things come to us, they are good things and they are technically from him.
Yeah, but at some point we have to live out our faith. Like, I mean, what does it say? Have a faith of a mustard seed and you can move a mountain?
Yeah.
And so would that mountain move if we didn't have any faith? I don't know.
But I think it's more about, I think the faith element is doing the things that God has commanded us to without saying that without the one-sided God provided via my prayer request.
Well,
and I think that, but I see what you're meaning in terms of how prayer and faith are connected.
I go to a AG church and they believe in healing and they believe, like, my pastor, he'll get up there and he'll say, I have seen it where someone has come up and there was something wrong with them physically.
Sure.
And then they pray over them and they're healed.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that saying like God would not have healed them had they not prayed for this person, or was it used to increase someone's faith?
Right. See,
he says that about one of the guys, like the lame guy or something in the Bible,
because
they were like,
did
he do?
Right.
Was he this way because he sinned or his parents sinned? He's like, no, it was to
that God would
glorify
be glorified.
the Lord. Right. Yeah.
I think that I do believe that God heals. I do. I mean, I've seen people with miraculous stories, but then I also know that He doesn't heal. And so why is there healing for this one but not for this one? I'm just as faithful. I'm just as devout. I know a guy that should not be dead today because this is a great man of God, and his family is so bad in it right now, and it's like you could have healed him. Now, am I mad at you for not healing him? No. Are other people in his life mad at God for not healing him? Because they believed with every fiber of their being that God was going to heal him. You know, and I was praying, God, help people handle this either way, but thank you for the light that He's been in everybody's life and in my life, and give them strength to get through whatever is to come. Because half of them are like, God let us down, and other half are like, well, this is life. This is bad things happen to good people. And that's the camp I fall in more. But I think it's harder when you believe that God can heal, and what do you do when He doesn't? And why didn't He heal your person, but He healed somebody else? Or He healed somebody else that's not a good person, and so that's where I really try to stay out of pretending like I know the mind of God and saying, oh, God definitely healed this person.
No one can, no.
I know, but see, that's where I think it gets dodgy, because people in churches all the time say, oh, that God healed him.
Yeah.
Did He? I don't know, because then that means that was the mind of God. But I think that if that increases their faith, then it served a purpose.
Because I do believe there are moments that we can't explain why things happen.
Yeah.
And I think the logical connection is to consider if that was God being active in that exact moment. But I just don't think that our faith is dependent on God doing something that we pray and ask about, because I really liked what at Momentum who was Lisa Turkers.
Yeah. Oh, I love Lisa
I
Turkers.
liked what she said about sometimes we put our faith in God answering or doing the things that we think He should do.
Right.
Or something in that realm where it's like, if my faith is tied to Him doing what I think is good,
right,
then I don't think that's how it's supposed to work.
It's such a hard thing, because you say, well, you're supposed to pray for God's will. Got to pray for God's will. Pray for God's will. And your will, if you're praying for God's will and your heart to be renewed and to be changed into His, then you'll pray differently. But then it also says pray specifically. And so you have this really difficult thing when you're praying specifically with hope and with expectation, and you're following what you think is in the Bible, and then when it doesn't happen, you have to deal with that, and how do you process all of that? And I think that's where I think being a devout Christian can be harder than someone that's hands off or agnostic or whatever, because it's just life. Bad things happen to good people. It happens all the time. But when you truly have faith that God loves you, cares about you, believe that He can do all these things, and when He chooses not to, if you're not balanced enough in your faith, that can wreck you and cause severe doubt versus faith, So
I think we've seen people do that.
Yeah, and it's sad. Like I've seen, and like the situation I'm talking about, there are people that are really strong believers, but this is messing with them, and I understand it. I don't judge it at all, because I totally understand it. But it's a weird thing, all from these losses and stuff. And Marty talking about that, and I think she was shocked at my perspective on it, and I think a little saddened, and because I think she really worries that I'm gonna fold up if she were to die first, and would just become a recluse, and yeah, and
she cares.
Yeah, no, I think it's great.
I'm still gonna have my phone on silent.
Yeah, I know. She did make a joke. She's like, and don't don't think for a second that Bambi's gonna make you feel better, like some girl,
Bambi?
A girl named Bambi, a younger 20-something girl. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm talking about.
I will say though, what do you think? Because I think Marty is not responsible, but she orchestrates you guys going to small group.
Yeah.
What do you think that your let's say, like church and faith life would look like without her?
Oh, it'd be more bagels and coffee for sure. Like bagels and worship, I mean.
Screen time.
I had, years ago, I worried that if I lost my family, if I lost my daughter or my wife, that it would be one of those things that ended my relationship with God, because it was very dependent on. And I was worried about that. I'm like, man, and the fact that I worried about it meant that I cared about it, you know. But then there was a turning point where I'm like, okay, God, if that were the plan, I can't handle that, and it's not going to be the end of you and me. Like, I will be mad, upset, hurt, grieve, all of that. But I will still follow you, kind of thing. And so that was a big turning point for me. Now, that being said, would I want to spend as much time in church, like physical church, as she likes? Probably not, because I don't care for. I think being involved in a church is important. But I would do it online. I think I would pull back from a lot of people, and I would become more solitary in what I did and who I interacted with and things like that. For sure, I already don't seek. I already have to work intentionally to manage relationships that I have in my life. When someone's like, when Greg moved, like, I have to be intentional about reaching out. He's pretty good about it. He's always been better about it than I am. And
He's
I
retired.
have to be. Yeah, I know.
That's easy.
Well, and then, like, I mean, honestly, like, his brother died this weekend. This is part of what started with all this. Out of nowhere, his brother died. And, and so I'm texting. And it's a funny thing, because there was a situation surrounding his brother's passing that was a surgery beforehand, where I was going to make a joke and text him a joke about the surgery for his brother, kind of like a kid about your tailbone. And thank God I didn't.
Thank God.
Yeah, because then it was literally an hour later we got the news.
That he had.
But I told him, so finally I had texted him. I said, hey, I know you're dealing with a lot. Like, I'm here, if you want to talk things through or whatever, and I am praying for you, and it's like, so just, I know you got a lot. And so later on in the day, he called me, which I was great. He was like, yeah, I left the house. I'm sitting at a gas station with Red Bulls and something else. And he's like, he just ran me through everything. And it was good because I got to talk to him. But it's funny because I told him I was about to text you a joke about your brother's surgery. And he goes, I would have laughed. He goes, I literally talked to him prior to, because he had one of his toes. He lost one of his toes that got mangled in a motorcycle accident, and he goes, I told my brother, I'm gonna buy you those socks with individual toes, and I'm gonna cut one off. Like, but that's how that's like all of our sense of humor is the same. Yeah. And his brother's laughing, and so then I talked with him. His sons got to talk to their dad because he had been in for a surgery, and then there was complications after. But they had all got to talk to him. They all got to talk to him about they love him, and it had nothing to do. They didn't think he was going to pass away. And so they all got those good moments with him, which they were thankful for. But I was really seriously glad that Greg called, and I mean, just to talk about it, and I'm like, that was good, because I remember I lost my dad. I was on a cruise when I lost my dad. And so, I'm having to do conga line, knowing that my dad passed away, and Greg and Molly were there with us on that cruise too.
That's rough.
And so, you're out having a good time, and you're like, well, I'll be back in 7 days,
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it was hard. But anyway, so that, I guess we kind of ended on kind of a bummer. Yeah. That's what birthdays, everybody. No.
Yeah, we do
we'll
have
do that tomorrow. You got them?
Yeah, I'll shout them out.
Okay.
Donovan to his sister Emily.
Yay! How old is young Emily?
I don't know. She likes macrame and plays the keyboard. She's turning 13.
Oh, you've got a long life ahead of you, Emily. It's gonna be great.
Oh gosh. Then
These
we've
are
got
just our lives.
Genesis to her dad. Genesis? Would that be a girl?
Yeah, boy? I think that'd be a girl, yeah.
Okay. To her dad, Frank. Said Frank is a huge fan of the Wally show.
Nice.
He loves his family, popcorn, coffee, and movies. I'm basically a carbon copy of my dad. We both cry easily, don't have a poker face, and are pretty hilarious.
That's awesome.
Okay. Well, happy birthday. Hopefully your birthday is positive, uplifting.
Yep. There you go.
And wonderful.
Well, we're back, so enjoy that. But thank you for missing us. And again, it's another short time because then I'm out in 2 days, and I
Be
apologize.
mad at Wally and
it's
no
my
one
fault.
else.
It's my fault. I'm going to be gone, on my vacation finally. So it was bad timing to have support drive and then a vacation right after. But I'll get over it. I'll get over it in Iceland. Yeah.
All right. And as always,
Thanks for being a potty.
growing up in poverty has never been easy for children, but with the added challenges of the pandemic, conflict, and natural disasters, families around the world are facing an unprecedented food crisis. Unfortunately, those who are already hungry are now even more desperate. But by sponsoring a child through compassion, you can help provide life-sustaining essentials such as food and clean water. And with your compassionate support, that child can not only survive, but also flourish. You can find out how and choose a child to sponsor when you click on the compassion banner at wayfm.com.